Well, hi, I'm Jeff Strong. I'm creator of the Auditory Brain Stimulation Therapy Rhythmic Entrainment Intervention. And in this video, I want to talk about the REI Authorized Provider Training Seminar. This seminar gives you everything you need to know to be able to offer REI to your clients. Whether it's our REI custom program, our generalized CDs, or BrainShift radio, I'll cover everything from the history to the science and to the clinical research so that you can understand who's a good candidate for our programs and how our programs work. I started my work developing this in 1992 after being introduced to these concepts in the early 80s. In the early 80s, I was introduced to traditional therapeutic rhythm making, researched it a bit, got involved in it pretty deeply, but then kind of walked away for a while as I took on a regular music career. And then in the late 80s, early 90s, I started really looking at these traditions and wondering what could happen if you took them out of their traditional cultural context, stripped all those cultural pieces away and just looked at the essence of what it meant on the brain and behavior and looked at it clinically. And so that's what started my work. I started playing with people in their living rooms and documenting what I was seeing. Did my first formal study in a public school in 1994, really looking at what we could do for drumming for calm with children on the autism spectrum. From there, I got asked to speak at a bunch of conferences, one of which led me to doing a series of double-blind placebo-controlled studies looking at autism, ADHD, chronic pain. Then we started branching out in our research, really exploring the depths of what rhythm can do on the brain and behavior, and then developing protocols to be able to create a real program that could be used consistently, something that we could then branch out and offer on a larger scale, more than me just playing one-on-one with people. In 2004, we created our Authorized Provider Training Seminar, the precursor to this. This was a live training that I did around the country for 3 solid years, 13 trainings a year. And I trained about 600 people doing this over those 3 years, about 200 people a year in the live trainings. And then in 2007, we made a shift. Web 2.0 was coming around. We thought, you know what, let's put the training online. We were one of the first organizations to put a CEU course online and to make it a full training program and make it on demand. So you could take your time doing it. You could do it in the few minutes you have each day. We broke it down into a really kind of cohesive format where you could watch short snippets of videos and get through the course without having to devote a full day or two to learn the whole program. And that is evolved. We have evolved the training over the years as technology is involved. But it's still video on demand, and you have the opportunity to connect with us directly. That's one thing that we're about that is very different than a lot of other organizations that are doing therapies like this. We are available. I'm especially available. My job is to support our clients and our providers. So if you call and you ask for me, you'll talk to me if I can. If I'm on the phone with somebody else, I will get back to you, or you can wait. Either way, I will talk to you. That's part of what we do here. So as a provider, you're really important to us. I'd love to have you join us. Keep in mind, there's a couple things about REI that are very different than any other program out there. First of all, we use auditory rhythm. We're not using binaural beats. We're not modulating classical music or any other pre-recorded music. We're not using headphones. This is really important. So somebody can listen to our program through open air. As a matter of fact, we prefer that because it makes the brain work a little bit harder. So no headphones, which is a great thing for a lot of people. A lot of providers who come to us having done another auditory program that required headphones. And they realized they weren't going to be able to get to certain clients because they couldn't put the headphones on those clients. So then they start working with us, they start seeing the results that they can get from this program, and then they just keep bringing more clients to us. That's kind of the pattern for a lot of people. Other people come to us with a drumming background. They're interested in rhythm. Rhythm is very different in the way the brain responds than it is for melody and harmony. And so there's certain things that we can do with drumming that can really activate the brain. And that's really covering 2 different aspects of what you can do here. One is called entrainment. This idea of a synchronization. This is in our name, Rhythmic Entrainment Intervention. When we started our research, we thought this was the key. The idea that you could bring the brain into a relaxed neurological state, that I can bring the brain into an alpha state of consciousness. Alpha is an externally directed state, a little bit slower than our normal wakeful state of beta, where we're neurologically calm, we're receptive, and where our sensory processing is optimized. And that's the place we want to be in, especially if we want to calm somebody down. So that's what we thought was the original thing. As a matter of fact, our earliest research was strictly looking at calm. Could we calm somebody down by using drumming? And sure enough, you can. It's universal. This concept of entrainment, also called auditory driving, is universal if you follow certain rules. And over the last 25 years, we've discovered what those rules are, and we've managed to optimize that. That's the first step with any of our programs and CDs, is to create this neurological calm place. Receptiveness, anxiety reduction, improvements in sleep, they all come from this place. The next step of what we do is stimulation. Now, stimulation is the idea here that you're giving the brain a novel stimulus, that a pattern it needs to decipher. And in the process of deciphering that, the brain becomes active. And once you've got the brain activated, now you can do a lot of different things with regards to helping somebody through some of the issues we're talking about. And we call this exercise for the brain in the basic level. You give get the ability of the brain to be able to process sensory information more efficiently, being able to decipher sensory information more effectively. Now you can see changes in a lot of different areas. But there's another aspect of stimulation that makes REI unique than anything else, and this is the idea of specificity. Specificity is where we have specific rhythms that seem to elicit a very particular response. So this is something I was looking at from the get-go, because one of the traditional techniques that I learned talked about this idea of specificity, that you can influence behavior and the brain through very particular rhythms. There's something about the intricacies of looking at that specificity that really grabbed me, because I liked the complexities of it. So when I started doing my clinical research, I spent a lot of time and effort digging into that, and we started seeing patterns. And we saw that certain rhythms can elicit a very specific response. And here's an example, and I talk about this in a YouTube video I have up, where a hand flapping motion like this with somebody on the autism spectrum can be stopped with one particular rhythm. And I'll play that for you so you can get a sense for what this feels like. It goes like this. This rhythm universally stops this behavior. And I played for thousands of kids over the years, really kind of trying to document what was going on, kids and adults. And we were looking at a whole bunch of different areas. I've got about 600 rhythms that we use for different patterns, so that we can be really looking at the specificity of what certain behaviors we can change, what certain functions we can change through the rhythms. That's kind of the concept that we're doing here with rhythmic entrainment intervention. So when we talk about our custom program, especially, we're talking about the stimulation. When we're talking about our generalized CDs, like calming rhythms or focusing rhythms, we're really looking more at the entrainment aspect. The idea here that we can create a specific neurological state of calm. But when we talk about the custom program, it's really about specificity and stimulation. And so when we do a custom program, it is truly custom made. It's based upon an intake form, which looks at somebody's gender, age, and profile. And then as well, we create a really clear picture of who the child is through a very lengthy rating scale questionnaire. It can be up to 200 questions on a rating scale questionnaire. And there's simply statements that say, has trouble falling asleep. Then you mark it on a scale of 1 to 4, whether it's relevant or not. We take that profile that we see and we create the first recording. That first recording you play every day for the amount of time that is generally played. It's anywhere from a week to 2, depending on the person. And then we're seeing how it works in the real world. We're not making any assumptions about what's going to happen. We're going to see what happens, then we're going to make the next track based upon how they responded and how their original recording went. And we do this process through the whole program. And so it is custom made and dynamically created. And one of the coolest things about this is the way we developed it is we also have the ability to jump in and make revisions. In other words, if something's going on, say we're 5th or 6th track in a 12-track program, and we're seeing some really great language development in this person, but we're also seeing the sleep getting kind of disrupted, which is common because the kind of stimulation we need to use to help somebody's language is much higher than what we need to use to help them sleep. And sometimes if we're really pushing it on something that requires high stimulation like this, it can cause some problems with other areas like sleep. So we have 2 options at this point. One is we can integrate one of our generalized recordings that are part of the bonus part of the custom program. We offer additional recordings in a custom program that are generalized recordings that are episodic. So for instance, there's a sleep track in there. So they could conceivably play their custom track during the day, and then maybe at bedtime they put on the sleep track, and that helps with the sleep. And that's really good for somebody who, because of this high stimulation for the custom track, they're having a hard time falling asleep. But say they're getting up and they're waking up in the middle of the night. That might not be the best choice. What might be the best choice is simply to back off a little bit on the stimulation on their custom track. Just a little bit for a little while to get their sleep settled back in again. We're still going to make some progress on the language, but maybe not as quick because we want to solidify the sleep. And that's where revision comes in. That's where you contact us, or your client does, and we adjust the recording. And that can be done an infinite number of times during somebody's custom program. Because the whole idea here is that we custom make it and we make sure it works. And that's the one thing that's exceptionally unique about this program, is we don't rely on pre-recorded music. We don't rely on just mixing and matching tracks that are on a CD or modulating, a pre-recorded piece of music. We're custom making it. Yes, it's me playing on every recording. And the way we do it is fairly complicated. Just to kind of give you an overview. Like I said, we have like 600 different rhythms we've identified, or symptom categories anyway, that we've looked at. I recorded musical snippets for each possibility, basically, in a way a program works. We've got 8 databases of thousands of tracks, snippets. So it's me playing anywhere from 5 to 30 seconds long in a particular rhythm. And when somebody does an intake, we take that intake, we look at the profile and their exact specifications of what we need to do, and we assemble the proper rhythms. It can be anywhere from 40 to 60 rhythms in somebody's custom program recording. And we'll assemble those in the right order, because that matters too. It's not just the right rhythms, it's the right order. And that's how we make the track. So it's me playing individual snippets that are put together and woven together into a program that's appropriate. Next track, we either choose the same or different rhythms, and we put them in the right order. They may just change order, we may change rhythms out. It really depends on what we're trying to accomplish, but that's part of the complexity of what we do here. But we've got that down to a science at this point. The main thing you need to remember about this as a provider is that we can work with a whole variety of different people. We focus on really calm and sleep to begin with. Get the calm started, get the brain organized, get neurological calm happening. That's step one for us always. And then we can work on different levels of stimulation. So we work with developmental disabilities, the autism, ADHD spectrums. We work with sensory processing issues. We work with anxiety disorders, sleep disorders, mood disorders, brain injury. You'll see a list down below this video, down in the page below, but kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at. If you have questions about a particular client, give us a call, ask for me, I'm happy to talk with you. We can cover a lot of ground, but we're also very clear when we can't help somebody. That's another thing about our program. Every intake that comes in is looked over by one of us, and we determine whether they look like somebody we could help. And if we can't help them, we're going to be really upfront from the get-go and say, you know what, this really isn't the right program. We can't really help here. Or we can do this, but we can't do that. We'll give you an honest assessment if we think we can't accomplish what somebody's looking for. But if we do, we work really hard to make it happen, because we're constantly adjusting and revising. And we're there for you to make sure your clients get the most out of this program. That's the bottom line. So we're kind of your helpers to get you to get the most out of the therapies you're doing as well in your work. So if you're interested in this program, definitely look down below. There's a lot of research down there. There's some videos. If you have any questions, contact us through the email at contact@stronginstitute.com or call us at 800-659-6644. I'm looking forward to working with you.